Hey everyone, welcome to Area 616. So it's pretty well known by now that, according to early critics' reviews, Iron Fist is apparently a special kind of bad. Marvel's first true flop on Netflix, after the big successes of Daredevil Seasons 1 and 2, Jessica Jones, and Luke Cage. So going into this, I tried to clear my mind of all the reviews I'd read and go in as unbiased as possible. I started episode 1 at 3:02 a.m. and finished episode 13 at around 4 o'clock p.m. But was it truly as bad as the critics are saying? First of all, the story. Iron Fist is the story of Danny Rand, who returns to New York after being missing for 15 years, using his learned mastery of Kung Fu and the awesome mystical powers of the Iron Fist to fight criminals corrupting New York City. So, how was it? I'm pretty pleased to say that it was actually not that bad. Now, I wouldn't say it was great or anything. In fact, I'd say it was the worst of the Marvel Netflix shows so far. However, at the end of the day, it was not terrible at all. It was fine. It wasn't great like Daredevil, Jessica Jones, or even Luke Cage, but it was still good. Now, if you're personally offended by Iron Fist's white savior-esque story and all that, I wouldn't say that this show would have enough to really convince you to like it, which is probably why all of the early reviews were so negative. However, I feel like people watching this just simply to watch it will hopefully see that it is enjoyable. So let's break it down. The two biggest criticisms for Iron Fist in early reviews was that A, Finn Jones is apparently terrible in the role, and B, the fight scenes were apparently absolute garbage. However, actually watching this, it's hard to say exactly where all that's coming from. Now sure, Iron Fist's fight scenes are nowhere as good as Daredevil's. Some of them are even kind of bad, but for the most part, especially as the show goes on, they're fine, and they get better. Again, not mind-blowing or truly impressive, just good. As for Finn Jones, I personally thought he did a good job. A lot of critics have said that Finn Jones plays Danny as just flat and boring, but while I can't see where they're getting that from, I genuinely think Finn Jones did an okay job. I wouldn't say he did anything that truly blew me away or anything, but he did exactly what he needed to do, and he did it well. And let me just go ahead and say that I'm not biased here. There might be some people saying that I'm just praising the show simply because I'm a comics nerd or whatever, but the fact is there's plenty of not good things about this show. It does, at least for the first half, move at a very slow pace, with a lot of time spent in offices and stuff, which can sometimes get pretty boring to watch. Also, one of the things I've always loved about the Netflix shows is how they manage to have such interesting villains and supporting characters as well. And this show delivers on that to an extent. Colleen Wing is cool, and really, I thought everybody from Harold to Madame Gal did a pretty good job, although they were never quite as interesting as, say, Karen Page or Misty Knight. They just never quite caught on like I thought they would. They're not bad characters, and they're decently played too, but they're just not overly interesting. Rosario Dawson and Carrie-Anne Moss also did great jobs as Claire Temple and Jerry Hogarth, respectively. One of the things I liked was surprisingly how the story moved. Iron Fist is unique to the other Netflix shows for me in that it actually didn't feel like it had to stretch out its story at any point, beginning to end. I thought it was pretty well done, all things considered. The writing's kind of on again, off again. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, though it's mostly the former, thankfully. It's also interesting how Iron Fist kind of reversed the usual Marvel Netflix trope of the pacing issues and stuff getting worse as the season goes on. But in Iron Fist, it actually starts out with some weird pacing issues and editing and stuff like that, but actually gets better as it goes on, with the second half being much better than the first. But in closing, Iron Fist was a decent Marvel TV show. Not one of the best, but not absolutely terrible either. I hate to say it, but I can't help but notice how biased the reviewers seem to be based on the political sides of the story, which is understandable for sure. Iron Fist definitely has some problems in that area. However, it feels like a lot of the early reviews made it sound worse than it actually was simply because of that. So, if you prefer Danny staying white like in the comics, or even if you're just like me and you really don't care which way it goes as long as it stays true to the character, you'll probably like this, but not love it. The first 6 episodes might be hard to get through, but the last 7 episodes are much better in comparison. However, if you are unhappy with Finn Jones' casting and the story, I can't say this show will offer a whole lot to change your mind on that. End of the day, I'd give this a 4 out of 5. It was good, but not great. It's worth a watch. However, I will say it's got one of the most boring opening credits themes ever. Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and Luke Cage all offered cool visuals and music, but this one's just kinda dull. The music's boring and the visuals are way too dark and boring to really grab you. I can't really show it to you, as Netflix hasn't really released it online yet, though I can't really blame them if I'm being honest. Before I go, remember there's a spoilers discussion on the way, so if you've watched it beginning to end, or if you just don't care, be sure to check that out. But in any event, what did you guys think of Iron Fist? Good or bad? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know what you guys thought of it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Ain't nobody don't miss me.